Hello, welcome to Grow New Plants. It's springtime now, and we're going to do a little quick update on the Japanese maples, and then we're going to look at doing some grafting on a few of them. So these are all the Japanese maples that I planted last fall, and they're all leafing out now. It's middle of March now, and they've leafed out really nice. We had a really warm winter, didn't get much real cold weather. I just left these things outside in the backyard. And these are all the green maples. I've got 100 of those, just plain Japanese green maples. And then I've got some red maples here, and most of these have leafed out. A few of them still haven't, but they got buds, so I think a few of them are just behind the others. And in there, that's my Bloodgood maple that I bought from the nursery that I'm going to use for to cut scions off of. And then these here are the Tamakayamas, and some of these are leafing out pretty good. Some of them just got big buds. They've all got buds on them. I think they're all going to come out and be fine, but that's all they've done so far. So I'm going to take some of the green maples. I'm going to pick out 2 or 3 of them, and then I've got some scions that I took off of a Bloodgood maple, and I'm going to make my first attempt at grafting on these things. So I'm going to get reset up, and then we'll start working on grafting them. Okay, here's my scions. This is from a Bloodgood maple that I found locally it's actually at a hospital. They have several huge Bloodgood maples, beautiful trees, good healthy trees. This is all good spring growth, not spring growth, but relatively new growth, and they look like they'll be about the right size for this. So I'll go through there and cut out the scions that I need as I get to each tree, pick out one I think will fit good for that tree. So we'll get our trees set up and we'll start cutting them. Okay, for this tree, I think I like this little scion right here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here. Get these out of the way. And I'm going to come through and I'm going to cut the leaves off. Like I said, this is my first time to do this. So we'll see if I'm successful or not, but hopefully we can learn along with me. If I do it wrong, we'll know. So I'm cutting all the growth off. So I'm gonna graft that one. I'm gonna graft it, probably gonna graft it up a little bit high, probably about right here. And that way, if the graft doesn't take, I can have a second shot at it down here. So I'm gonna probably go about right here. So to start out with, I got my grafting knife. This is my little Victronics grafting knife. It's a one-sided blade. So I'm gonna come in here, and I'm gonna make my little pocket cut. And I'm going to go, it's a pretty small scion, so I'm probably going to go about 1/2 inch. I'm trying to do this where you can see it, and I'm sorry. Get above that, so. Yep, I made that really big. Well, we're going to try it anyway. It's a good cut, I think, but it's just, I made it a little bit big. You can see right there. I think that'll still be okay though. So now I got my scion here, so I'm going to make you know what, as big a cut as I made, I'm going to start with a bigger scion on this. I'm going to go with something a little bit bigger, because I made a pretty big cut on that. I think this one right here will be good. We'll go right here. Got lots of buds on it, so that'll give it a chance. That's a good cut there. Well, I did the same thing. What I want on that, at least on that one side, I want a good flat cut. That's a good, really good cut right there. That's a good flat cut. It's a good flat cut on that side. And I got it beveled down on the other side. So I'm going to put this long cut into my pocket. And what you want to do, I'm sure you've watched videos on this before, but the cambium layer is a layer just underneath the outside bark, and you want to line those two things up as best that you can on one side. You're not going to line them up on both sides, but you want to line that up as best you can, at least on one side, on this outside and this inside right here. And that's hopefully where these two things will mate together. And we'll see how particular these things are. Okay, I need to come up a little bit to get that flat. That's good right there. If I can just keep that in place long enough to get my tape on it. So let's get my tape ready. This is a parafilm tape. It's a specially made tape for grafting. Like I said, this could end up being a total failure. I just don't really know. But we're going to try it and see what happens. I'm sure I'll get better on this as time goes on. So I'm going to go just below my cut there and get it pulled kind of snug. And I'm going to start wrapping. I'm going to go up. I don't want to put it too thick on there because you want it to be able to breathe a little bit. This parafilm supposedly got some perforations in it where it allows the graft to breathe. So I'm just kind of pulling snug as I go. I want to go till I get just above where the union is. And I'm going to kind of pull it tight. There. Now I can kind of halfway see. It feels pretty good. I think it's lined up pretty good. So then I'm going to get some wax and I'll put some wax down inside here. I may come back and do that later, but that actually looks pretty good. So we'll see how that works. And I'm going to leave all the growth on the top of the tree, and because I don't want it to, it still needs its energy and stuff. So some of these videos I've seen, people cut the tops off too quick and it hurts them. So I'm going to leave that on until I know the graft is taken or not. And then if it does take, then I'll start pruning the top of it back. And then once this thing gets a fully graft and this starts growing out, then I'll eventually come back and snap the original trunk off right here. So right there, I think that one's pretty good. So I'm going to get set up and do another one. Okay, I've got another little green Japanese maple here. So I'm going to go, same thing, I'm going to go a couple buds up. That way if this thing doesn't take, I can hopefully have a second chance on it down below. So I'm gonna get to the side here a little bit. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing just a little bit better. Hopefully you'll be able to see this through the side. So I'm gonna come in right here. I'm gonna make my approximately 15-degree cut. Trying to get it where you see it, but it helps if you keep your... All right, so we're about probably 3/4 of an inch down right there. I think that's a good pocket cut right there. So now I need to pick out a saw-on for it. Yeah, I think this might be a good one right here. It's got several branches above it, but of course I'm going to take those. Cut that back. Still got some buds on it. Still got some buds down in here, and there'll be buds that can develop. Down in here. So we're going to go with that one. That's a little more firm than the other one that I used. So now I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to come across at about a 45-degree angle. That's not a good one there. come across on this back side. Try and make a little bit longer cut. That's a pretty good cut right there. I got a pretty good angle on it. You have to excuse me, I think the trash truck's coming down the alley. I'm going to pause for just a second, let him go by. Okay, now I got quiet again. So here we got our silent. I think that's a pretty nice cut right there. It's going to fit really good in this pocket cut. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to slide it in my pocket cut. And line that cambium up. I got to turn this where I can see it a little bit better. I'm trying to do this where you can see it for the camera. So that looks pretty good right there. I really like that one. That one fit perfect. I'm going to pull that little bud there off the other trees. All right, so I'll get my tape, my parafilm. This parafilm and this knife and all this stuff, if you can't find any of this stuff locally, some of this stuff's not easy to find in your local stores. You can get it off Amazon, and I'll have links down in the description of the video if you're looking for it. So just putting a little pressure on this to make sure I get it down nice and snug as I pull around. And I'm going probably about half the length of the tape up with each rotation. You don't want to get it too thick because you want the joint to be able to breathe a little bit. So that gets it to the top. I'll go on this last turn. I'll kind of snug it and pop it off. That feels really good. That's pretty stout right there. So that one's ready, other than putting a little bit of wax in that joint to keep moisture out of it. So that one looks real good too. Okay, let's get set up and do one more. Okay, this is our last one. So I'm going to go, I'm feeling pretty confident right now. I'm going to go ahead and go right here on this one. And you see how that tree is leaning a little bit? It's leaning that way a little. So I'm going to put it on this side, and that way the silent will actually be going straight up when I cut this back. So that'll work out good. So I'm going to go right here on this one. So let's come in, and I should be sanitizing these in between. And like I said, this is more me experimenting and getting a little experience doing this. We'll see how they work out. And as I get better at it, I'll get set up and I'll concentrate a little bit more on sanitation and all that with these things. Coming down nice and slow with about a 15-degree angle. That's pretty good right there. Yeah, I like that one. And I'm already getting better at it. Let's see. Which one of these do I want to use? I got all these cuttings now. I can pick whichever one I want at this point. That's a really small one. I think I'm going to go with this one right here. So I'm going to go cut it off here. And I'll cut this limb. And I'll go ahead and just take, I'm going to leave a few branches on it, see what that does. So there's a silent for that one. I don't know whether I'm supposed to leave those branches on there. We're going to see what it does. So now to take my knife back. So I'm going to go in here, try and make my 45-degree cut. So that first cut always wants to curve a little bit. I think you're better off making that first cut and then coming back a little bit higher on your second cut. And it's got more relief, so it's easier to get a good straight cut on it. That's pretty good, but it's a little short. I'll just keep going till I'm happy with the cut I have. Hopefully I still have some of my sawn left afterwards. That's a pretty good chisel cut right there, so I think that'll be good. That one side's long enough, so I'll put that side up. I'm gonna go ahead and prune this thing back a little. That's gonna be right up on the bark. So we're gonna come in here like this, put it down inside our pocket cut, line that cambium up. So I'm gonna turn this back where I can see it good. Make sure this thing looks lined up good. You know what? That one's not flat enough. I could tell when I started trying to put it in there. So I'm going to recut this one. I could tell when I put it in there it wasn't flat enough. It didn't want to seat good up against there. You can kind of tell when you stick it in there. Yeah, see, that looks a lot better. I'm seeing the gaps around that bark. So you got it right there, all that bark lines up real nice. It lines up, I don't know how well you can see this. It lines up nice on this side and on this side. So that's two different places where you can make that attachment to that cambium layer. So hopefully that's where the graft will take place. And then once it does that, it'll start growing together like it's one plant again. So we'll go ahead and put some tape on that one. So we'll start just below our graft. Pull it tight till it gets a grip on there. And we'll just give it a gentle stretch. Still look like we're lined up good. A gentle stretch, come up about a half of a width of tape with each rotation. Just keeping gentle pressure on it the whole time to stretch it out a little bit. We'll keep going until we completely cover the graft. And if you're watching this video and you got tips or comments for me, I'm more than open for them. Like I said, this is my first experience in grafting. I got a bunch of them to do. I got 100 of them that I'm planning on grafting. So that looks good too. Feels pretty solid in there. I think my alignment's still good on it. So I'm going to get, I don't have any true grafting wax. So I'm going to use the beeswax, which most of the grafting waxes are beeswax anyway. So I'm going to go melt up a little beeswax. We'll put a little bit of beeswax down in those joints and then we'll be ready to go. Okay, so I just got basically a little bit of beeswax. I just took some Q-tips and cut the tips off of them. And I warmed this up in the microwave just enough to get it soft. And all you're doing, really, you just want to get it down in here to prevent moisture from building up right in that joint. So I'm just going to kind of force a little bit of this down in here. That ought to be good. So I can get a little bit. Yeah. Okay, that'll be good. Just enough to try and keep moisture from getting right down in that joint and rotting that thing out. So let's go ahead and do all three of these. And like I said before, I'm open to suggestions. I'm sure I'm going to get people that have more experience with this. Really got that tight. That joint is super tight right there. Thing is right up against the other trunk. Anyway, if you got any tips or suggestions for me? And the proof will be in the pudding. We'll see whether these things take a couple weeks probably to know whether they took or not. And hopefully it's like a lot of things, you know, there's a million different ways to do it. And you can say, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. But in the end, there's a bunch of different ways that'll make it work. And if the way I'm doing it works, then I can say, oh yeah, this is the way you do it. May or may not be the right way. But from everything I've watched and studied on doing this grafting, it makes sense that I feel pretty confident these are going to take and hold. I hope so, because I got 100 of them to do. Do that without getting wax all over my knife. Try and get that down in that. I got these joints really tight. I wanted to get them tight because I didn't want, you know, I'm thinking in the future of what the tree is going to look like. And I don't want to, so I've seen some people put them on and the signs are really pointed off at an angle like that. And it's going to make a funky looking tree when it grows up. You know, I want this thing to once this thing takes off growing and I cut this off, I want this to look like an extension of the original trunk. And I think I did a good job on all 3 of these. Let's see if I can get all of these in here. So there's my 3 grafted Bloodgood maples onto green Japanese maples. So we'll give them a couple weeks, and then if you don't follow me on Instagram, I will post some pictures of these on Instagram, and I'll do follow-ups on Instagram. And then hopefully when these things start budding out, I'll do a little short follow-up video on this too. So I'm going to go ahead and post this video with just the process I used. I'll do some kind of a follow-up regardless if they work, if they don't work. So check back in a couple weeks and we'll see what the progress is. Check back in a couple weeks for sure on my Instagram, and then maybe on my YouTube channel too. But I will for sure do a YouTube follow-up. If they haven't done a whole lot in 2 weeks, I probably won't do another video. It would be kind of boring. So I'll go ahead and wait until there's some kind of development, either good or bad. But I will post a follow-up either way. So I appreciate you watching. Please like, subscribe, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.